Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 9:24, sorry, 10:24 on a Saturday morning. Beautiful day. We we had a really fun show the other night at Blue in Portland, Maine. Both of the bands I'm in, Osmia played, and then also Quantum, and then the Buttonmen, which is a really great synthwave electro 80s inspired band from Portland. And so it was all for all of us, it was our first time playing at Blue. And for as far as Quantum goes, it was really our third show down in Portland. A lot of the times our gigs are somewhat local. The only times I've played down in Portland before with at least Quantum is early on, the first few years after we started the band. We played at the Flask Lounge, played there once, and then we played at this art gallery for their art walk one time, and then we also did this little street festival down in Portland. But that was quite a few years ago, and so I haven't been really able to kind of connect or build anything in Portland. So it was our first show. I guess I feel like it was like our first official show down in Portland, and it was a blast. It was a show I put together and Osmia played, which was really fun, and to do back to back sets of original music, and then the Buttonmen were closed it out, and that was really great. It was a really stormy, rainy day, drenched in rain all day, and but once things got going, it was great. And then by the time the Buttonmen came out, there was quite a bit of people there, and it was a little dance party broke out. So it was fun. It was our first time doing it. And then as far as with Osmia, the only time I've played down in Portland with them was at the Odeon Theater, and that was quite a few months ago. And that place is a very cool venue. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get some more things down in Portland. Portland's a little bit of a grind only because it's a couple hours away, and there's some other things about it that make it a little bit hard, but it's worth it. And I think it's it's kind of an untapped market. It's a market I haven't really. Years ago, I used to have some good connections there, but a lot of things changed and shifted. So it was fun, and it was a blast. And so, we'll see what happens. And Yeah, so I was away from my computer for a couple of days, and I just uploaded a video that actually I just finished it, and I put it up there just a few minutes ago about the new Osmia cassette. It's a live compilation that documented kind of the tour that Osmia went on in March of this year, and that's this little cassette right here. I did a whole show talking about it and all of the little details around it, and it was a blast. It was one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had, as far as just going into this whole new thing with a new band, but then going on a pretty extensive tour, and then it was like kind of the great unknown too, because we all like didn't really know each other too well. Like it was, I just kind of said yes to the whole thing, and it ended up being just a fantastic experience. So a bunch of the shows were recorded, and this cassette came out uh, probably, I think it came out about a month or at least a month ago, and it's a compilation of two of the shows that we played. One was in Pennsylvania, one was in D.C., and there's about 4 or 5 bands on here that both of the both of the shows were recorded. So yeah, it's really great. It's a really great document of that really magical time that we had. So tonight I might go to the movies. Well, I'm going to go to the movies. I'm just not sure which. it's funny having choices all of a sudden of what to do. But today's Saturday, and there's a couple of movies. The new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, One Battle After Another, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro, is playing. I really, really, really want to see that movie. I'm a big Paul Thomas Anderson film a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan, and as well as Del Toro, Benicio del Toro, and DiCaprio. So we'll see. And then the other movie that's playing tonight that I might go see in case it doesn't work out, reach out to a buddy if you want to go, is to go see They Live, the classic '80s John Carpenter movie with Roddy Piper, which is an awesome movie. I've seen it a bunch of times, and it's awesome. I mean, it's one of Carpenter's best movies. Um, but I haven't seen it in a while. Definitely haven't seen it on a big screen. But I kind of want to see this Paul Thomas Anderson movie really badly. So, but we'll see. And so this show today is actually on a movie that I've watched before, and I did a show on this movie probably about a month ago, and it's such an incredible movie. But I watched a slightly different version of this film that I really loved, and I was like, I gotta do a show on it. And that's from 1999. It's an Australian horror slasher movie, definitely a slasher movie, horror exploitation movie from 1999. It's an Australian movie, Blood Moon. This movie completely kicks ass, and this was put out by Severin. I think this just came out a few months ago on Blu-ray. This is one of their newer releases. Some of the Severin releases that I've gotten as of late have been new titles that they've just kind of put out. But Severin is always, consistently badass. They put out the best of the best. And there's been so many new movies that I've gotten through them that I've never seen before, and I've just loved every one. There has not been one clunker in the whole lot. And I did a review for this probably about a month ago. This was like, I got this movie about a month ago and had never seen it before. It's a really underground movie, apparently. Came out in 1999, and it's a real interesting time period for the slasher genre because it's kind of like, I don't know, I kind of feel like this is really late. 1989. So this is like, I feel like this actually really marks kind of the end of the slasher genre as we know it. They're you know they're still slasher films are still extremely popular, and they're a lot of studios are still putting out new slasher films. But I honestly think the only slasher movie that I can think of, I'm probably going to be leaving one or two out, but the only slasher movie that I think is just really, really awesome and really gives you something new is, which came out last year, In a Violent Nature. I love that movie. I think it's a killer, pun intended, slasher movie. And it's a new movie, and it came out last year. It's a real interesting film because it's all told from the killer's perspective. So it kind of does away with the typical tropes that you always see in slasher films. And so it's really cool, really interesting. It's actually the the setting, the location, the environment, the world building, like which it's all set in a deep forest. It really the locations really act as a character. I love that movie. I saw it on DVD when it came out, and then I bought it pretty much immediately on Blu-ray, and I've watched it a couple times since then. That's really, when I think of it, the only new. I mean, again, I'm probably leaving out one or two, but that's really the only like real good slasher movie that I can think of that stands out to me. That's come out recently, and I feel like this movie, Blood Moon, which is a really kind of an underground movie. I guess it was. It came out in '89, and it was, went into total obscurity. But thankfully to to Severin, they brought this amazing movie back. This is like one of the best slasher movies. I think I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna do a future show on for Film Fanatic where I'm gonna talk like a big updated version of my new slasher film collection. I've gotten a lot of new slasher films lately and over the past year, and I did a show probably about 5 or 6 months on my favorite horror expectation movies, slasher movies, and I had about, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 movies in that show. And I'm thinking of doing a future show where I'm going to talk mainly about slasher movies, but then talk about the new additions that I've gotten. And this is definitely a part of that new body of films that I really, really love in my favorite genre of all time. Like I really, really love slasher movies to death. It's my favorite. It's my favorite genre. To me, it's just they're super fun. They're satisfying in every way. They totally are. Totally are. So again, like I said, I did do a show on this movie not that long ago, but there's two versions of this film, and I watched the other version last night, and I was like, yes, this I prefer this version, even though realistically it's like there's a difference of maybe 5 minutes of new stuff on it or in the movie, and but it just makes for that much more of a fun and kind of enjoyable ride. There's a regular like theatrical version, but then there's also this version where they have this fight break, or I should say fright break. And what that is it's basically this movie is about, it's a little bit longer than your average slasher movie. It's 101 minutes. A lot of slasher movies are a little bit shorter, like hour and a half or so. This is about that, maybe a little bit longer, but it's 101 minutes. And there's two cuts on here, and there's a lot of special features on here. Not much as far as inside, but there's a lot of there's some cool, really cool special features on here. And there's two versions, and the version that I watched last night is the Fright Break version, where there is a pretty cool kind of intermission thing in the middle of the movie. It's like right, there's like about 4 acts in this movie, I would say, all together, and it's right at the 3.5 mark that there's a break, and there's this really kind of cool, funny, it's kind of silly and goofy, like Fright Break, and it's basically gives you that feeling of it was a thing, part of a bygone era in films when you would go to the movies in the theater back in the day, and for longer films, because typically films back, like, well, especially in older Hollywood films, there were films there would be an intermission a lot of the times, in between maybe the third act or so, and they would have like a little musical thing, some kind of interlude, and this has this little musical interlude. And there's like this kind of funny recap of the kills in the movie, and there's this really cool kind of voiceover thing that comes on talking about the movie, and basically says, the voice is like saying, well, if you can make it all the way through, if you dare, to the end, because it comes at a really good moment when, for this movie Blood Moon, the intermission kind of comes at a really cool part, because you kind of, at this point before the intermission, there's kind of the reveal of who the killer is, and then the stakes are kind of even higher. There's even more kind of intensity to the story, and it gets a little bit more darker and more violent. And right as that's kind of hitting is when the intermission comes in, the Fright Break, and it's really awesome. It's super funny too, like, but it adds a lot to the experience. And I actually prefer, and it's like 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. But I actually prefer this version because there's like this quick little recap of all the kills, and then there's this cool voiceover. There's a really cool shot, visual shot of a moon, a blood moon, and there's this whole thing of where the guy is talking about, if you can, trying to egg you on to be able to finish this movie and get through the violence and everything. But it's really funny. It's really great. It's effective. And I actually, prefer this version, that version, to the regular theatrical version because it's just, I don't know, it has a little more charm to it. But it's quite a bit different, even though it's very short. It's really effective, and I don't really have too many movies that I own that have that kind of intermission built in to the actual Blu-ray or 4K version of the film. A lot of the times that intermission thing was done in the theater, for an actual theatrical run of a film. But super awesome, and this movie is just great. It's such a great slasher movie. I bought this totally cold, had never seen it before, and I love this movie. I've seen it twice now, but I definitely say to check this movie out. It's a pretty hard to find movie. I'm not sure how many of these exist in the world, but it's really good. It's actually a really good, well done movie too. It's definitely super low budget. It's got all the classic tropes, and I think that it's from a film buff's perspective, or from a historical perspective, especially when it comes to slasher films, like 99 or 89 was like when I feel like the slasher genre as we know it, or as I know it, kind of was coming to an end. It hit super hard in the 70s, obviously, and it reached this massive climax. Really got into this new avenue in the 80s. It reached this apex where there were so many slasher films coming out, so many great films, so many classics. And then, and of course, these are all, the slasher films are a big part of the exploitation world. So you had all of these directors, trying to capitalize on like the success of Halloween or the Friday 13th franchise, because at that time, in the late 70s and 80s, those were the biggest. So there were all of these directors that were capitalizing, trying to, that market was massively huge. So you had all of these filmmakers that were trying to kind of outgun the other director, showing more sex, more violence, pushing the envelope a little bit further, trying to make the movies even darker and edgier. And there were some that were probably not very good, but I don't know, everyone that I've owned, that I own, I love. I mean, some, Black Christmas being probably the most important one, and then you trace it back even before, to some of the Herschel Gordon Lewis films. There's so many. The New York Ripper. There's The Burning, My Bloody Valentine, Pieces, Mad Men. Just so many. Another film that I just recently got into, Nightmare, just a killer movie. Another amazing slasher film. So many good ones that you can't even put really a number on how many great ones came out. But this is one of the best ones. And again, this was one of the, I'd say this is one of the most obscure ones that I've come across, and it's an Australian film. So, and historically, it kind of marks, I kind of feel like the end of a decade, and for true slasher films. So, and I definitely recommend buying this Severin version. Again, I'm not sure how many copies exist anymore, and definitely check out both versions. But the Fright Break version is the best. So I wanted to do a quick show where I talked about that particular version, which I think is even better than the other version. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.